Come away. Right, let's go. Hands up. Wait. This. Yeah. Oh, let's go in. Anti-clockwise. Oh, finish it, come on. Now we're going to do something else. We're going to stamp our feet twice. Starting from me at the back. Stop. So now we have Orla, who's going to be telling us a story.
This story is called Eric Loves School. Eric loves school. Of course, every kid says that, but Eric really loves school. In class, the other children would stare blankly ahead and mindlessly doodle, but every time Eric was asked a question, he would reply immediately. He never paused or stared ahead as if unable to hear. This really annoyed his teacher. "Please stop being so attentive. Why can't you be like everyone else?" his teacher would say, when Eric wasn't able to lose concentration. The other kids laughed at Eric. He figured out that if he applied himself to lots of other work while the teacher was teaching, he would lose concentration and would not be able to listen to the lesson. This calmed him down too. While the other kids could repetitively and compulsively draw the same pictures over and over, Eric couldn't help always doing some equations in the corner of his page, which annoyed his teacher even more. The other kids always bullied and made fun of each other, rotating it so everyone got a chance to be excluded. But they always respected and included Eric, and he just couldn't understand why they wouldn't treat him in the same way. In secondary school, Eric's equation habit was even more frustrating to teachers. "Grow down, you're not an adult anymore," they would say. Eric found exams too easy. The other students worked twice as hard and often didn't answer the exam question. They would go off on irrelevant tangents or stare blankly ahead even when they knew the answer, easily getting the extremely changeable grades their teachers praised. To make matters worse, Eric's moods were changing. While the moods of his classmates were becoming more and more out of control, swinging from depression to states of elation, he was becoming calmer and more diligent with a consistent work ethic. Eric's classmates didn't understand why he was always so calm and attentive, and they said things to him like, "What's right with you?" Sometimes Eric would come home from school and found his family were too loving and caring, and he could not bear to be around them. So he locked himself in his room and carefully completed his homework. Whenever Eric would say to his family, "I think there is something wrong with me, I'm different," they would say, "Oh, you'll grow into it." Even when some of Eric's teachers mentioned that Eric might need extra help, his parents dismissed it, believing that Eric was just looking for an excuse for his good grades. Things got worse at university. Eric began to engage in very expected and predictable behavior, and he felt in complete control of his actions. He felt so confused about this, he kept eating and drinking healthily all the time. While everyone else rarely attended lectures and found it difficult to leave the house, Eric turned up to college every day. He was often asked why he couldn't try less. Eric didn't want to annoy people he tried to try less, but try to try less as he might, his sleeping patterns were always regular. And he always remembered to switch off lights and that he was cooking something and not to leave it unattended. At one time, Eric had really believed things would change when he got older, but things were getting worse. One day, Eric's friends brought him to a hospital. Eric told the doctor that he had thoughts of hope, and he believed things would get better, and he was feeling resilient. The doctor was concerned. They said this was too normal, and Eric had to stay in the hospital. Things began to get better for Eric then. He started experiencing mood swings that were highly irrational and stopped experiencing hope. He sat in a room and talked to a counsellor, but he did not mention anything beyond trivial pleasantries. Eventually, Eric returned to university, but something was still wrong. Even though Eric's moods were now extreme like everyone else's, he still couldn't help concentrating. This greatly irritated everyone, and he was accused of caring too much. Again and again, he was told to try less. Eric told his doctor that things were still difficult, and his doctor told him again he was normal and that he would not get cured, but things would get better when he learned to cope. The doctor recommended things like setting his diary and calendar on fire so he didn't know what was going on, and learning to ignore people. Still, Eric worried. He always wanted a job managing a business, but this disappointed his family, and he was told there was too much money in it, so instead he worked as a writer. Eric worried about falling in love, thinking that no one would see him as an equal. Still, he recognized that there were people in much more difficulty than him. People who were so focused they were called very productive. He worried about kids like him having too much extra support at school. He worried that he should never have children because he might teach them to do the right things instead of the wrong ones, and they would be brought up in a world where they would never fit in. Sometimes he tried to imagine a world where everyone fit in, not just people like him, but ill and disabled people too.